Hi everyone, this is Dr. Chhoda and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Folks, today is a very important day. Some very graphic videos were played today during the start of the second impeachment trial of former President Trump. Boy, oh boy, this is an intense period for our country. Now, as far as our government is concerned, what's interesting is that the Democrats seem to be adapting their strategy specifically when it comes to appeasing elements of the party that think that, hey, rich people, I use the word rich because the definition of rich is subjective. Someone making $200,000 a year may not necessarily be rich if they've lost their jobs, right? But the Democrats are trying to appease certain components, like the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, Joe Manchin. There he is. Hello, Senator Manchin. So what the Democrats are trying to do is walk back, if you will. Here's a tweet on your screen from Arthur Delaney, who's a reporter for the Huffington Post. And Arthur says that Democrats made a huge change to their checks plan, keeping the original phase-out thresholds, but abruptly cutting out households with incomes above $200,000. So this is a summary of their most recently released bill. Under the phase-out structure, the credit is reduced to zero for all taxpayers at the 100, 150, and 200,000 AGI levels, depending on filing status. So if you make more than a certain amount of money, depending on whether you're a single filer, and by the way, if you're married filing jointly, making more than $200,000 a year, based on your most recent tax returns, you get nothing, zip, nothing. I have done another video advising our viewers and subscribers to file their tax returns for 2020, assuming the income for 2020 is lower, because the IRS is going to use your 2019 or 2020 tax returns to make the determination about your eligibility based on the information they have. So if they don't have your 2020 tax returns and your income was lower in 2020, honestly, it hurts you. It backfires on you. So if your income was lower in 2020, which it was for most of us, it makes sense to go ahead and file your tax returns as quickly as possible. Arthur also points out that the new relief bill puts unemployment boost at $400 instead of $600, contrary to what Democrats said last year. It is true that the Democrats wanted $600 a week, but the Biden plan proposes $400 a week all the way through September of 2021. So Arthur also points out if they didn't fuss with the income cutoffs because the checks are bigger and also going to dependents, Democrats were terrified of checks going to households with income approaching $400,000. So pretty interesting comments from Arthur Delaney. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's actually take a look at what Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, had to say about this. She was asked to comment on, hey, why don't you get the Republicans on board? Why don't you make this a little bit more bipartisan? And she said two things that I thought were very significant in today's press release, and I'll be highlighting both of them. So let's check out the first thing that she said that jumped out at me. She said Republicans have an opportunity to provide input in the House, meaning all the amendments that are taking place. The House Ways and Means Committee is working, which, by the way, is how this whole thing came up. Hey, we're not going to do targeting. She said, why don't the Republicans chime in? And she said, why aren't more Republicans supporting this proposal? Because it's supported by a majority of the American people. Part of the PR strategy, part of the pressure campaign, if you will, from the White House as they try and get Republicans on board this ambitious stimulus plan with larger stimulus checks than the first and the second stimulus checks. Let's roll the tape and hear from Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary.
You've been arguing consistently that his goal of unity doesn't mean creating a one party, right? Mm-hmm. And you also point out that there are polls supporting what he's trying to get out there. But what is his bottom line for showing that he has really tried for unity? Would there be one Republican senator would be enough? Would zero be enough? Like, would he be happy if no Republican senators support his bill? I guess that's what it boils down to.
Well, the president is certainly hopeful that the process that's underway now, the markups that are happening in the House, the markups that will then proceed in the Senate, will provide an opportunity for Republicans, Democrats of all different political stripes, to put their ideas forward and have those ideas considered. At the end of the day, his view is that urgency is his first priority here, and that the American people, people who are concerned about getting food on the table, 1 in 7 American families, people who are worried about reopening schools and getting their kids back in the classroom, people worried about whether their grandmother and their cousin are going to get vaccines, that's where his priority is. So the question really is, if 74%, depending on the poll, of Americans, including the majority of Republicans in some polls, support this proposal, support the components of this proposal, then why aren't more Republicans supporting it? We certainly hope they will and welcome them to the table.
And folks, this second takeaway is another major takeaway. She was actually asked at the very end of the press conference today, how are we going to pay for all this? What are the plans to deal with the debt that is mounting? We're well over $25 trillion in debt right now, and the debt is actually growing every single day. And Jen Psaki had a very interesting answer, which I think is a precursor of what we can expect sometime next year. I don't expect this to happen this year because I believe that the Biden administration has their hands full with the vaccine rollout, with the vaccine distribution, with trying to get the economy back on track, and they don't want anything to disrupt the stock market. They want things to start to improve from here so they can have a strong first year. They want to be able to get that surge of popularity, and then they want to be able to put the entire Trump administration behind them. They want to be able to try and do an infrastructure plan which does have support from Republicans. But this is a very interesting precursor of things to come. Jen Psaki said, and she said tax cuts for the highest income earners should be rolled back. And she said that was one big idea. Again, this is a sign of things to come. I do believe that a significant portion of the 2017 tax cuts, specifically for high income earners, will be rolled back sometime towards the end of this year or sometime next year by the Biden administration, once we can make our way through 2021 and get the economy back on track and proceed with the aggressive vaccine rollout which is happening. So let's hear from Jen Psaki. This was an important clue. Now, I want to be clear, President Biden has said this, but it's clearly not come up recently because they have, bigger things to worry about, more immediate needs, such as the stimulus plan. Let's hear this significant comment at the end of the press conference from the White House press secretary. Let's roll the tape.
Republicans are expressing sticker shock. So I was curious what the president's plan was to decrease the deficit once the pandemic has abated and the economy is stabilized.
Well, one thing that could happen is that the tax cuts for the highest income could be rolled back, and there's kind of a newfound concern about deficit reduction among some who supported those tax cuts. So, that's one suggestion. But the reason that the president and members of his economic team feel that a package of this size is so essential at this moment is because we are dealing with a pandemic. We are dealing with an economic downturn. People are suffering. The American people need assistance. And this emergency relief is something that the cost of doing nothing or the cost of doing too little is the greater risk, in his view and the view of many economists, and including his Secretary of Treasury.
So, folks, that's it. Let me know what you think about this ongoing PR strategy from the White House and a hint of their future plans, which is rolling back the significant tax cuts for the wealthiest among us. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. I would really, really appreciate that. That would mean a lot to me, and that helps out the YouTube algorithm as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Thank you. Bye.